there's a live chat room and stuff. It'll be cool. They'll be speaking throughout, and you'll have us a fun time.
Nice.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Black Guy with Toots podcast. I'm your host, Rod, joined as always by my co-host,
Karen.
And we're live on a Wednesday, ready to do some podcasting. Find us everywhere you get podcasts. Look in the show notes. We have a live show coming up September the 9th, 3 p.m., downtown Charlotte, Night Theater. We love to see all your faces there. We're seeing, you can get virtual tickets, you can get in-person tickets. We're seeing the sales totals every day. Like, we get a couple more tickets sold, and it's getting exciting to see everybody. I have something special planned that everybody's going to be like, oh my God, I wish I had been there. So make sure you're there, okay? In addition to that, we have a guest today.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it's not just any old day here, all right? We got a guest. Today's guest is content creator, reviewer, influencer, nerd commentator, and all-around dope person, Fantastic Frankey. What's going on?
What's up? Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. I don't know why. Rod, because I've been on podcasts with Rod before, and like every time he speaks, it's so well founded and it sounds so smart. And I'm like, I hope I sound as smart as you guys.
Frankie, this is gonna be a love fest because I feel the same way about you. I follow you on Instagram. I always see your videos. The only reason I don't leave a lot of comments is because I don't like arguing on social media, but I always like see your videos. I always think you have like such good takes, and they're so funny, and you're so like, you do this so well, and you really make look like being the center or the focal point of a lot of like nerd discussions. You make it seem so easy. Like you do a really good job. So I mean, you're killing.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people. This guy just commented, I was going to make a video about it, but then I had to come here, about like how problematic I was. And I was like, this is an interesting take to consider me problematic when, one, I only talk about fictional characters. Like, I've never like started internet beef, but I was like, let's really dive into like what it means to like highlight, sexism and racism and the things that we look at, and for that to be viewed as problematic. I mean, I speak harshly, but I'm from New York, so this is like the nicest I can word it. Like I work really hard to sound nice, and people be like, "You're so mean." But
well, you are. I mean, first of all, I realized this when I was introducing you. When I was picking my internet name, I should have went with something that had like something cool before my name, because being introduced as Fantastic Frankey, like every time we say your name, we're calling you Fantastic. Like I should have went with like
Fantastic.
I should have went with like Really Cool Rod or something, and then people be like, "Oh, it's Really Cool Rod." That way, even when people are mad at you, they could be like, "Oh man, I really think Fantastic Frankly is problematic," and they're like, "But you just called her Fantastic."
Like what's happening here?
No, I never thought about that, but you're right. And it's like, that Kevin Hart special where they're like, you're trying to be mad with a baby. And like, you're like yelling, but you're putting it, that's how it feels like sometimes. Like they're like yelling and then they're talking about this whimsical name.
What was the origin of the name Fantastic Frankey? Like what made you go with that?
Honestly, I went to Ghana a while back, and I was on a bus telling my friends that I was going to start this page, and one of them said it. We were talking about Fantastic Four, and they're like, "Yeah, like Fantastic Frankey." Like we're talking about kind of making it like a superhero name. Yeah. And one of my homegirls on the bus like kind of blurted it out. And I was like, yo, that's lit. And I just, from then on, I was really committed to like alliteration, and F is actually a really good letter too. There's a lot of F words.
Fantastic Frankey, the fanboy fighter. I mean, it's got a whole moniker to it. I feel like once you read that sentence, you know everything you're going to get,
It's all there. What got you into nerdom? Like, what is that thing that like sparked you, or you like, this is my thing?
Oh, I started before I could determine if I liked it or not. So my dad is a big nerd, and my parents are divorced. So when I was growing up, that was how we would connect. We were going to cons back when cons were just like, rooms with comic book creators and stuff like that. There are pictures of me like strapped to his chest, and we're like looking at merch or getting figurines. And so I think initially I'd started it. It's funny, we always say like we're not doing this for men, but I think initially I did start my fandom because of a man, which is funny. But I really didn't feel a need to fight for my fandom until I expressed it without him around, and I got to see how that was like without him guiding what I was reading, without him moderating the people that I was around and seeing the visceral response that I got. I think it kind of incited this kind of fire in me to be like, I'm gonna advocate for women who look like me. I'm gonna really go in and put a lens over what I'm looking at. And for a long time I was doing it privately. And then a couple of years ago, I was like, let me just start, because we're the Black women. I need more of them out here,
Yeah. And I agree. It's one of those things where for a long time, I kind of rejected nerd and nerdum. We have a podcast called The Nerd Off. And I remember when we first started the podcast, it was kind of a running joke, but it was serious about how I did not call myself a nerd. I was like, no, because it has just growing up, it had such a negative connection and root and foundation to it. I was like, no, I'm not that. But then I would turn around and get mad about RPGs and turn around and be using all types of phrases and words that unless you're kind of in the world. And also it's one of those things where being intimidated by the fact that, and a lot of this comes from misogyny, men don't have to know shit about shit, but they can just talk in general and everything's fine and nobody questions them. But the second a woman or any other walks into the room, it literally becomes a nerd off. How much do you know? Do you know that, like, they want to check your credentials? And I was like, well, fuck, I don't know. So since I don't know, why am I here? If I'm going to be questioned to death and not have an answer.
I think it's interesting because one, a lot of times you did know. So it's like you're saying you don't know stuff and then you go on like an epic 10-minute rant about Nintendo and why it's fucked up that they keep selling us the same games every time they come out with a new console. Yes. And then people be writing in and be like, oh my God, that was so awesome what Karen said. And it was, that's such a nerd rant. And I'm mad about it too. And I'm glad somebody finally said it. And then if you ask Karen at the time, she'd be like, but I'm not a nerd, And I think the thing I was said at the time, I think, is also nerd changed in our lifetime. We're old enough to where nerd used to mean like social outcast, and then nerd kind of changed because it became pop culture. Now it just means like someone who's really into something. Like people even use things that like sports is for cool people. Supposedly you can be a sports nerd,
right?
That's how far nerd has come. Where as not a pejorative, it's like pat on the back, like, oh, he's a big sports nerd. And you're like, that doesn't feel like he's going to get his books thrown in the mud like me, but sure, good for you. I'm glad that it came across. So I think those two things combined to like make it seem like to you, like this is a bad thing to label yourself or be called, or I don't have the authority to call myself this. But you have to realize there's so many people who are known to be nerds who give their opinions and they just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. There's no test, there's no badge, there's no authority. Right. They're just claiming it.
Right.
And once you know that, there's just no reason to run from that label.
But I agree with you, Karen. It's disproportionate. I can have panels, but green screen while I'm talking about a comic book, and they'll be like, you never read it. And then I'd be like, well, what did you get out of it when you read it? And they'd be like, well, I didn't read it. I just know that's wrong. And I'm like, to feel that comfortable, I agree. I want that gall. Like, do you guys remember that video with that white boy? And he's losing it. He's like, it's about Glinda the Good Witch. And she's like, she's a princess. Da, 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 da. Like, you're going to tell me I'm wrong? And he's like going hard. I saw a clip where Tosh.0 had brought him on and was like, actually, she's a witch. She's not a princess. And he starts explaining why. And he said, actually, I haven't seen The Wizard of Oz. And I was like,
that's not funny. That's the shit. That's not funny. They'll make you want to burn the motherfucker down because you're like, anything that I know it. You know what I'm saying? Like I enjoy it. Like I am somebody that will spend hundreds of hours playing on a Nintendo console. I've had multiple consoles. So for somebody like me to go on a rant, I was like, I actually know what I'm talking about because I have invested. And like I said, just because you have a penis, you can swing it around and everybody says it's okay. Anything other than that just doesn't have the authority. And then I'm going to challenge you on everything. And I think for me, it's very frustrating. And one thing I love about my husband is that we both are nerds. Mm-hmm. And so it's very comfortable. I don't have to worry about being challenged because there are things that they are quote unquote simple games, but I'm really good at it. That he'll try to play and he'll be like, I don't know how the fuck you do this. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, oh, it's simple, beep, 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 because I've literally just spent hours.
Well, it's just you'll self-deprecate she'll be like, I like really simple games and
and I'm trying to play the Ring.
Yeah, I'm trying to play fucking Stardew Valley, nigga. That shit is like, it's more complicated than just actual life. Like, just I'd rather just log off and go pay my rent and figure out try to figure out Google Calendars. It's so much, and it's like she'll come in while I'm just because Stardew Valley is a cozy game.
Yes.
So what I would do is I would just wake up, do like one task for the day, and then I go back to bed. And if you go to bed in the game, it fast forwards time to the next day where you can do new shit.
Right.
And she's like, "Why are you going to bed?" And I was like, "I planted my thing." She's like, "You're not gonna go to the mines?" I was like, "Okay, what the fuck is this game? I got to go fishing now. This is just life with more steps."
Yeah.
Right. And my main point being, like, I'm not saying it to say, I'm not challenging the idea that men have such audacity and challenge women and LGBTQ people and stuff. That's not my point. My point that I'm trying to convey is these niggas don't know what the fuck they talking about. Yeah. And so they just talk the loudest with the most authority, but they really don't know shit. I can't stress enough how many times I've gotten into a conversation with a dude that had a very strong opinion, and within a few minutes, you're just like, I don't think this motherfucker knows what he's talking about. Like, I don't think you read this book. I don't think you played this game. I don't think you watched this movie. I don't think you know about the lore of this other thing, which is why you're so fucking mad. And I think if other people could just completely understand that part, then it's like, fuck these people. It's not intimidating at all.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So we should start swinging our dicks.
Yes.
I mean, our clits or whatever. It's like,
honestly, I think y'all doing too much because y'all actually know what y'all talking about. I think y'all should start talking on shit y'all don't know about. Like, show up to the fucking, like, if you don't follow the NFL, just show up and be like, you know what? I've been thinking about it. 49ers the best. And everybody be like, no, they're not. It's like, I don't need to know the details you just threw at me. Fuck it. I got opinions on everything now.
Love that. You're right. I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna just start talking randomly about One Piece. And things I don't know about, and just be like, I saw this commercial and it got me angry. Why is a man screaming? I gotta. Someone said, swing a titty in the air. We gotta close this chat.
Okay, you were secretly a person that was like advocating for all types of stuff in nerdom, but you said a couple years ago you were like, fuck it, I'm gonna be out here. What was the impetus? And then how did you, when you said be out here, what did that look like? Was it social media, tweets? When did it turn to videos? Like, what did that turn into you?
Yeah. So I used to be one of those big people who like always watched everything. Like if I consumed any piece of media, I'd run immediately to YouTube and watch like Film Theory, Blurred Without Fear, CinemaSins, like all this stuff. And I was like, dang, I wish they would touch on these points. And I'm like, they're not, because Ernie's a man, or, you know, like all these people are not me. And they're not from my community. They're not going to do it. So I had what I called like an Issa Rae moment where I was like, before I turn 30, I need to like do this myself and like just try it with a phone. So I, started filming stuff on my iPhone. I still got my original videos up, y'all, on YouTube. Garbage. And I just was talking about like random stuff. I think I talked about the Joker being on the train with me because someone like airdropped a dick pic to me on the train. And I was just like, how insidious that was to like airdrop someone named Francis, not knowing if that's an older white lady, a white man, or whatever, just being like dick pic. And then not look, I don't know, whatever. And then like talking about like Piccolo being black and stuff. And I did it on YouTube and on Instagram, and I really started to grow, particularly on Instagram. And then when COVID hit, it gave me the opportunity to really explore creating videos to learn more. I was able to like apply for some grants and then move into like the full-time territory. And that really gave me the freedom to like push out comics that I'm reading that are not Marvel or DC, to highlight things and to, I think at this point I've established a fan base in such a way that I can talk about what I want to talk about and not have to fight battles alone. And I think that's like my biggest accomplishment now, that I can, you know, speak and advocate and like know that I won't be alone anymore, you know?
Yeah, I see in the comments, like whenever there's a debate or something, you got your people that like got your back, you know, because there's always going to be like trolls. There's also going to be people that just disagree, you know, that. And I think when you do content that is like, listen, we're going to argue, you know, but we're going to try to keep it fun, not argue like toxically.
Right.
You're going to have people, of course, that come in that are argumentative. And if they get the vibe, then it's all good that they disagree. And if they don't get the vibe, I've seen the people jump in the comments and I love it. Like honestly, sometimes I scroll and I'm like, damn, this is a fucked up comment. And I get ready to say something. It's like, oh no, 6 people already said.
Yeah, I feel, and it feels good. And I still try my best to interact with the comments. I think that's the biggest draw to my page, is that like I do fight, I do interact, I do talk crazy. And a big part of that is because like, why not? Like, why? I want you personally to know that I think you suck. If I have the time, you know what I mean? Or I don't think your opinion is correct, or to explain myself, because particularly on TikTok and Instagram, I only have 1.5 minutes to get my thesis out there. So it's like, you know, there are things that I leave out or I don't have time to put in. So when people ask questions, you know, I want to answer it or clarify if people feel like it's incorrect or they don't understand where I'm coming from.
It also helps make more content and make the content better, right? Because sometimes someone can have a point that you didn't bring up or a counterpoint to your point, and you're like, I got a counterpoint to that point. Or, hey, you just made my point sharper. Let me explain how I worked in what you said into my premise. So I think it helps in that angle too. How do you keep yourself from crossing the line? Because I feel like one of the reasons I don't fight on the internet is because I want to win too bad. And it's like an alcoholic thinking they can have one sip, like, and then next thing you know, I'm like, and also I just Googled Joe Mama, you know, so I don't, so I have to be careful. So like, how do you keep that part of yourself from going too far?
I think, well, the biggest thing is the people who say the worst things will never say it from a page in which I could draw. But I also have to consider my audience, and I try to be considerate, because like me being from uptown, my immediate response is to cipher, like to talk about someone, their appearance and things like that. And I'm like, that's not fair to people who may resemble the person that I'm talking about. You know, I want to be like what's her name? Drew Afulo, that girl who giggles and like, you know, I want to be like that, but I'm like, that's not fair to the people who aren't in my comments talking crazy, who look like this. So I think that's one piece, not speaking like that. And I think also they always say something to me when we're talking that I'm like, no matter what I say, no matter what I do, they're going to stay in this point. And so why would I waste more time? You know, revenge shouldn't be more than $20, and that includes how much is $20 worth your time. So I think that's a big piece too, is like, and I also know they want me to talk to them. So I'm like, you're looking for attention, it's gone. So but now I'm glad we have the chairs. I just throw chairs at them I put the chair emoji. They got regular wood chair emojis, and I've been DMing. If you guys on here could help me in my cause, tweet, DM Apple to
We
add
need
the
golden
folding
chairs.
correct, to
Yeah.
the emoji list. It cannot be difficult.
Come on now.
Be difficult.
I got everything else.
Come
Fold
through.
it. Yeah, I agree. I need to talk to somebody somewhere, but please, we need that so I can throw those, because I used to throw tomatoes, corn, so they knew they were corny, or violins if they're like. Sometimes guys would be like, there's no safe space for us anymore. I'm like,
What?
The
Who
world
will,
is safe space.
who will think of the straight men, Karen? Who will think of us? Okay, let he without the something toss the first stone, something, I don't know. It's just, for us. All the women are getting the shows now. I was looking at Ahsoka. Where am I? In Ahsoka, everybody. It's all women.
How can you look up to that?
I've only had 37 years of Star Wars with men, and now now women have talking parts.
It's awful. It's awful. I remember Assassin's Creed, the one in Greece, had a female protagonist.
Yes.
And they had to, which means these coders and this company put in millions of dollars worth of work to include the option to choose a male, because there's no way Assassin's Creed, this huge property, could sell the game and get a good ROI for their investors if it was women-led.
So wow.
Yes. And not to get off topic, and speaking of that, and one of my gripes with Nintendo, I fucking love Zelda. Why hasn't Zelda been Zelda? It's always it was brought up one time, and I think the people was like, well, nobody would buy it. I was like, bitch, I would love for something to happen and Zelda have to go through the process to go get Link. The fuck, he in the game?
It is wow.
Is Zelda, does she have hands?
She could, but we'll never know.
We'll never know.
Matter of fact, I wonder if she's in she's gotta be in Super Smash Bros or something, so she probably do got hands. I'm about to look that up.
I was like, the Google coming up right now. Zelda.
That's one of my personal gripes as somebody who
Zelda is a playable character in Super Smash Bros Ultimate. So
she got a sword.
She got hands.
That's what I'm talking about.
She got the hands.
Yeah,
I mean, if you can do it for Princess Peach in the new Mario movie, you can do it for Zelda. I don't get it.
Right? Yeah, it is wild.
Agree.
And like the idea, I mean, look, they could be right, they could be wrong. I doubt they're right, but think about this: the idea that the new Zelda game is going to get Game of the Year, it seems, from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But their idea is like, but if it starred actual Zelda, people wouldn't even play it, which is like super wild to even conceive of. As a concept,
and it doesn't make sense. But like this, and I know this was a quote unquote be a compromise. I wouldn't even mind if you do like a lot of games do now, where you can switch between the two characters.
Right?
How one's in one place, one's in another place, and they're kind of trying to get to each other, like they get separated or something like that. More games are starting to do that, where you get to a certain point, or you can change over, or some games have where you can change back and forth, like. At the drop of a hat, like you can still integrate her into the games, but they're just opting just not to, and I do not understand.
I will say this. Now I feel like these white men are spitting about having to see themselves to enjoy something, because now that I have the option with some games to create a character that looks exactly like me, to go through the game, it takes me away when I got to be some man. I'm like, dang, I was just in Baldur's Gate being Phoebe from Brookland, chopping up people dressed like Meg the Stallion. I want that. So I was like, this is how white men feel, and now they got to play games with colors.
They gotta
gotta
learn to make room. But that's the thing. We know how they feel, because we've also played for years as not ourselves,
right?
And we managed to make it work. So I feel like y'all can make it work. I believe in you, white people. I believe in y'all more than y'all believe in yourself. I believe you could pick up a video game, it could be a black protagonist, and you could still play that whole game and have fun.
Yes,
I think it's possible.
I used to make up stuff. Like, I remember I thought Angelina Jolie was Latina forever. And I remember thinking the progress of having Angelina Jolie play Laura Croft, and to have this Latina play Laura Croft. And I remember I was talking to my dad about it. He's like, she's white, very white. And I was like, how white? And he was like her dad is a Ku Klux member. White. And I was like, dang, she not
yeah.
nothing.
Well, she would have been
at least
she would have been like a Latina. I think she would have went by like Aunt Helena, Yoli.
Yoli.
She would have had to put it out there with a little twist on it. We were like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing, sis.
I see that spicy wine.
So good with names, right? I remember we did a For All Nerds podcast, and you said it was the one with Multiverse of Madness, and the names you had picked up were so good. You did like America Chalupa or something, and you did African American Chavez and Sorcerer Chalupa Supreme, and I was like, this guy's a pro. This guy's a pro. I gotta put it together.
Shout out to For All Nerds, man.
Yes.
That's actually how I got introduced to Frankie. They always have like so many cool people on, and it's always introducing me to folks from all different walks of life and stuff. And that was actually like why I started following you on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff, because I was like, oh, a cool person, you know.
I met Ben when I had first started my page. He was like my first celebrity meet. And I saw him, I walked up to him, and I said absolutely nothing. I kept on walking. I froze. And so like a month or two later, I'd gotten enough notoriety for them to ask me to join their podcast. But between that time, I'd met Tatiana with Karama, and I told her that story. I was like, yo, I met Ben. And she was like, what did you say? Like, how was it? I was like, I said absolutely nothing. I froze. And they were just laughing at me. But I was like, yo, he's cool. He's DJing.
And it's so approachable. So another thing, so you start your journey, you know, what platforms did you pick as like to get out there? Because I heard you say YouTube. You know, I'm very familiar with you on like Instagram. I know you had like TikTok. Like, how did you pick your platforms, and like what was the most successful for you?
So YouTube, I had started because that just seemed natural. Like I said, that's where I was receiving all this content. And then when I started with Instagram, it was half and half. Like IGTV was just starting to get launched. And so I was doing pictures to drive them to my YouTube. But then IG just started to explode and YouTube wasn't. So I started focusing more of my energy on my IG. And then I was able to get more grants from IG. Technically now, my TikTok is my biggest platform. It's where I have the most followers. But I think my most loyal base and my most engagement comes from Instagram. Like, it's just more of a conversation. I prefer it. Even though TikTok, I know it's easier to go viral. It's nonsense, or it's easier to get followers, but a lot of those followers just follow you randomly and they never engage again.
Yeah. How do you, being a content creator and with the multiple different platforms, was it easy to adjust? Because each one requires a different muscle. Because we took our name on TikTok, but I don't got the TikTok brain. Like I'm like, I'm good. Like it's like you have to, the way TikTok is, you have to consistently put things out there. They have to be short. Like you, it's like an algorithm. And so I kind of hadn't figured it out. So for somebody who's big on there, was it hard to adjust to the multiple platforms and trying to push all your product out to all these multiple platforms?
You know, well, right now, because I'm focusing mostly on TikTok and Instagram, it's the same. I just keep my videos to the maximum amount of reels, which is like a minute and a half. And then I just repost it to TikTok. So in that aspect, that's how I keep time saving. But I do want to move to YouTube. Right. Because there is so much more I want to say and so many details I leave out in my analysis. But to your point, it is an adjustment. When I was on YouTube, I could make a 5-10 minute video and just go on and on and on. But that would take me all week. And I was dropping one video a week versus like now I'm dropping them daily, where I just need to find B-roll and stuff to green screen. So yeah, it's a different muscle. But I will say that TikTok and Instagram primed me to be more entertaining because you have to grab in people in those first 3 seconds. And that taught me and primed me on like, how do I capture people who are mindlessly scrolling? So doing things like starting with my thesis, figuring out how to word it where like my first sentence matters so much. And I could still bleed that over to TikTok and not TikTok, YouTube when I start to work there. But I think the only difference would be I could explain more. So the middle part where I'm in the guts, I'm talking about things, I can now really get into detail why I believe this and stuff like that. So I do want to go to YouTube. I just gotta, it's the aspect ratio that's killing me the most, and the editing. I'd have to film one for TikTok and then film one for YouTube, so that I can get that aspect ratio and get the timing, sky's the limit, but yeah.
And how long does it take you to edit a video? Like, because I've seen like you have different kinds of videos. Like some is like the green screen kind of background where like, this is the thing I'm talking about. And, maybe you're switching backgrounds every once in a while to be like, and here's a different page of this comic, or here's different artwork or whatever. Like, how long does it take you to upload something like that versus I saw your latest video on Instagram that was like, you had a little robot, like,
oh yeah, my little ad. Yeah. That's the best case scenario for an ad. Because like most people don't know it's an ad. So people were yelling at me like, I can't believe you spent that much money. I'm like, first of all, if I did, that's not your business. But two, it's an ad, y'all. Be real. Yeah. But
this hashtag ad, like it's in there. Read the caption, everyone.
Right. But you know what? I pride myself on making ads that don't feel like ads, because I know myself. If I'm like, immediately this is an ad, I'm scrolling. Right. So I try to make it bleed into like.
No, I definitely thought you were flexing on us, which is why I read the caption, and then I was like, oh, okay, it's like an ad. It's like a flex but an ad. I liked it.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, those type of videos, because I had to shoot in multiple locations, shooting it would take like an hour or two, and editing it was short because I just had to put in the clips and then do a voiceover. For the green screen ones, I think pulling the panels and thinking about what I'm going to say, if I add all that time up, it probably takes me around an hour and a half to do a like 1 minute and 30-second video. And then when I was doing like longer videos for YouTube, where I was editing, I was using DaVinci Resolve and stuff, I was using around, I want to say it was about 4 to 5 hours it would take me to like record, to write all my thoughts down. I would write, I think I still have them. Oh, they're somewhere. I would write my entire script out. And so I had to read, the script would take time and stuff. And now I just kind of just talk randomly and hope I get on my point. I may write a sentence, especially movie reviews. Oh man, I watch movies multiple times before I talk about it. So the first time I watch it blind, and then maybe after I'll write some key points. And then the second time I talk to the people, and then I have my phone out and I like type like thoughts that I have as I go. So those give me like enough juice. Like normally a sentence or so, like the high evolutionary not respecting meth will be like, this is a whole video, like things like that. Yeah, it varies for the most part, but never more than like 4 hours.
Okay. Wow. But that is a lot of work, because I think people see a 1 minute video and they just think that was all there was to it. And especially like as an individual creative,
right? Don't have a team.
Well, you could have a team. That's not necessarily like, but I mean, it doesn't matter that you're an individual if you're on the same thing that like IGN is on and that New Rockstars is on.
The same
people expect to scroll to you and feel that same level of quality, even if it's not fair. So I hear 4 hours, never more than 4 hours to make a video, but I'm like, 4 hours, that's a good chunk of work. That's like that. There's a reason that those videos are so good, because when I see your videos, I'm always like, wow, it's well edited. It feels like there's no fat on it. You know what I mean? Like it's like point, boom, I'm out. If I'm talking about something, the picture's right there for you to see it. Like it's, if someone leaves a whack ass comment, it's like, here's the comment they left. Here's what I'm saying about the comment. There can be like captions. There's a bunch of stuff that you do that I'm like, this is really like professional. It's work. It's, even if, even if it might not feel like work, or maybe you've gotten used to it. I'm like, oh man, she's working hard out there.
No, I work pretty hard. I appreciate it. I'm hoping to definitely get the notoriety at this point to be like in the same breath as IGN or New Rockstars. I mean, that obviously is going to come with the team. But that's definitely where I market, where I push. Because like I said, I do it full time. And so I market it as a package. This is full funnel work that you as Marvel, you as Warner Brothers, I work with Warner Brothers a lot. You guys can put this content on your page and it'll blending seamlessly with what you have. It's like, what if you were to do this? But then it's still, what's the word, raw enough that people feel like this is meant for social media. This is not in a like, you know, studio or something.
Are you ever tempted to have like a hot take that's controversial on purpose just to go viral? Like to be like, man, I just need to get these clicks today. You know, and then boom, here's my opinion on something.
I think naturally my stuff just feels to the masses hot. So I never really, I know it's gonna, and I think it's more like I have to reel myself back in some of my intrusive thoughts, right? So even like that video that I went super viral for, which was about Miguel O'Hara being racist, right? Yeah. The video initially was about him being an allegory for a cop. And then I said, the racism is easier to swallow. The blatant racism is easier to swallow because it was so blatant in the dialogue and the fact that they chose Miguel O'Hara over like Madam Web. And also because anyone who knew anything about Miles Morales as a character understood that dialogue was coming from fans who didn't accept Miles because he didn't follow the canon and and because he was Black. So I was like, let me tone it down. And I do that. And even when I tone it down, it's considered like insanely wild. And so I don't really need it. Even with that same point, when I posted it, I was like, I'm seeing all these parodies about Miguel being racist. So clearly this is a theme that we all know and see, and it won't be that hot of a take. I think we're all going to laugh. Not laugh, but I thought we were all going to go into a conversation about racism within our community. And it, you know, obviously some men got a hold of it and called me racist myself, and who weren't even Latino, which is crazy. And so I was like, you know, whenever I'm like, I want to do something for clout, I was like, I don't need to, because the fact that I'm a woman, if I'm talking about something that is something that you have to use your head to think about, it's going to be a smoking hot take. If I'm not attacking, but I'm critiquing something that's loved for a long time. Like I remember I talked, okay, you guys would actually, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Go
ahead.
My mom is on Hinge. And she went on a date. This is like last year or something. She went on a date with this guy, and when she went to the crib, you know, the date went well, and he had like some Captain America stuff up. So naturally, she's like, "Yo, my daughter, she's like a big time creator. You should check her stuff out here." And she gives him my page, and on it, I'm talking about Danny Rand, not Iron Fist, but how Danny Rand being white is like problematic. I don't like that. You should be Asian, and how you could still be like Asian people are not all from Asia. Like a lot of them grew up here. Have you ever been to San Francisco? Blah, blah, blah. And they could have that same fish out of water theme, and it'd be even more tragic considering that Danny Rand is at least half Asian, right? Boom. So that's the video. My mom's date sees the video, goes on a full rant, forgets I'm her daughter. It's like, who the fuck does this bitch think she is? And they just go off and off and off. She's like, you're talking about my daughter. And it was just so interesting to me that like a Black man could be so offended for me to advocate for diversity and to talk about the white savior trope about this white man being the best at this ancient Asian art and how weird that is. And I was like, I'm not. And when she told me that story, I was like, I never got to work hard to think about a subject. I just have to think about things that are in my mind when I'm reading these things. And it's gonna spark this reaction because I'm saying it and I don't fit what they fit. Because I've seen men regurgitate what I say, and people are like, wow, you're spitting. You're so
right. And it's ironic too, because that means he was sounding like Miguel O'Hara.
Right.
Hello. Like he went full circle moment right there.
Full circle. Oh man. I wonder if he follows me. She never told me his name. Obviously, she never saw him again because that's a huge red flag, right?
Yeah.
Even if you did know that was the daughter, I think.
And what do you? Yeah, what do you say after that? Like, anyway, so you still want a nightcap? Like, no.
Right. So you want another drink of wine? It's time for me to go. You lost your temper over the Iron Fist.
Right.
Whose favorite comic is the Iron Fist?
And not to get off topic, men are so fucking stupid. You talk yourself out of pussy all the goddamn time. Just shut the fuck up and look cute and look good and smile and shit like that. You saying dumb shit and then bitches don't want to fuck me. No, nobody want to fuck you because you're saying stupid shit to make the hoes mad and then wonder why the hoes don't stay. It don't make no sense.
Scaring the hoes. And there's actually, and I've been meaning to, but I just wanted a break from the negativity. But I've been seeing this like trend where people are talking about, these nerdy girls didn't exist when I grew up. I was like, first of all, clearly you've never been to any of the events because you're telling me that or are you not reading the comics that are written by like Althea Martinez or Stephanie Williams or all these Black women who were in the space? Whatever. But second, I'm like, y'all was scaring us. Like, why would we be open?
We want to be here.
Space? Exactly.
Yep. And also, like, a lot of them they think they want to be with a nerd, but they don't really. Because, like, then they would lose their authority as the nerd in a relationship when it comes to nerd shit. And they care more about that than the actual conversation or engagement or somebody that has opinions. We in this house, we got a fucking Xbox in every room, 2 or 3 PlayStations because she's a nerd too. So that means some days you walk in that room and you're like, fuck, I guess I'm on the other TV.
Right.
That's what it's really like. It's not, they kind of want like the cred or the clout of being like, I have a woman who's pretty and into nerd stuff, but they don't really want an actual like person they respect to be in the nerd stuff, because a lot of them are toxic even with other dudes.
Right.
They see the culture as like a very aggressive, argumentative, like I need to dominate you type of culture. And it's like, well, that's not really inclusion for real. Like,
no, it's not.
I'm not saying people can't debate and stuff, but there's a level of like, I need to dominate you with my opinion.
Yeah.
And then when you add that into like gender dynamics and dating and shit, like don't nobody want to be around that shit.
Nobody want to be around that. And also I think for me, I remember this was years ago. I think I want to say it was like I forgot which Xbox 360 or one of them when we got it. Mm-hmm. I remember I used to, because I would play, but this is before I got like my own gamer tag and all that stuff. So I used to consistently play under Roger's name. And so I forgot that when I play, you just years ago, you go online, everything would be up underneath him. And when I would play, all of a sudden you would get like messages, hey, bro, why you playing Fable, bro? Like stuff like that would just start popping up in his thing.
It wasn't Fable, it was Viva Pinata.
Yeah, Viva Pinata. That's right, Viva Pinata. I fucking love Viva Pinata. I want Viva Pinata 3 to come out soon. Shout out to that. Like it's one of my favorite things. I know it's silly, but I fucking love Viva Pinata. I play both versions, Xbox 360. But anyway, so he would get like pings, and I would be like, baby, I think I need my own gamer tag. I'm tired of them, basically talking about me, thinking it's you, basically in your manhood. Like if he wanted to play it, why is it a problem?
Right.
Yes, he said they think he's scaring the hoes too. That's the issue.
Hoes in the house.
Right. I think the biggest issue is there's a level of authority and intelligence that I think is associated with this community. And so I think men get afraid that like if we join this space, we're going to take over and dominate them. And now this is the only space where they could like be themselves, be truly, manly. And now we're taking over it. We're asking them to be inclusive, all that jazz. I remember in college when I was still a undercover nerd, closet nerd. I went on a date to see Captain America: Winter Soldier. It's my favorite movie. And I'm watching with this guy. He doesn't know, obviously, that I read any comic books. And we're talking about it, and he's spewing nonsense.
Nonsense.
Right? Like, and so I'm sitting here. It reminds me, if you guys ever see Mean Girls, when Lizzie Lohan is pretending that she doesn't know math, That's how it was the whole movie. I ended up going to see the movie the next day, matinee by myself.
Wow. He ruined it,
right? What was he doing? What was he doing?
He was just explaining the lore to me, but the lore was incorrect. So he was talking to me like Captain America, was wildly problematic and a little racist. And I was like, Captain America's racist? And he was like, yeah, like I wouldn't want him at the cookout. And in my head, I was like, Captain America's the only white boy in the Marvel.
Right. What the fuck?
But like, he was just
none of us go up for white people, but you're not gonna do Steve Rogers like that. I'm sorry.
Rogers and Clark Kent are the only white boys at my cookout.
Those are the two dudes that are what America tells itself it is.
Right. Exactly. And that's why I just finished reading right now, Graduation Day, the Blue Beetle comic. Mm-hmm. And Superman is the one that's sent to him to tell him to chill. And when he finds him, he's fucking up elote, speaking Spanish to his family. I'm like, because that's what Superman is. Yes. Wherever he's at, he's going to accept. He's not going to talk about how spicy your food is. He's not going to be like, can y'all speak English? He's going to learn because that's the type of man he is.
This is my fucking problem. This is my main problem with nerd culture because a lot of the people that come to represent it, the thing you're trying to represent are these heroes. And their ideals go directly against the shit that you're pushing back at.
Yes.
Like these heroes in the fiction that has been written would have been the ones to be the to use a football analogy, they would have been the fullback, right? They would have been the person in front moving everybody out the way for the other people to come through. So it's like, oh, we're finally getting like more diversity. That Steve Rogers gonna be the first nigga, like, absolutely we getting more diversity. What the fuck? That, like, why, when people are like watching like a Star Wars, which is about like a rebellion against a empire that is almost monolithically white and Nazi-like. When you see those ragtag people fighting against that, and then you get mad because it's like, but one of the most powerful people was a woman. You're like, what the fuck did you watch earlier? What did this even connect with you? What were you inspired by? The lesson you took from it was no girls allowed.
It's very, or to be like, it's getting too political when, like you said, the memorabilia, everything the empire stands for is literally copy and paste from the Nazis, down to the gear, to the red armbands. And I'm like, y'all can't be this dense.
Right. And also, I think for me, while we're on the topic, one of my pet peeves, and like I said, I know it's a sensitivity because I'm a woman. I am so fucking sick and tired. Everybody talking about comic book fatigue and movie fatigue with this stuff. Like I hear a lot of people say it a lot, and I think a lot of people saying it just to say it. Let me tell you why I'm sick of it, because nobody was saying this when it was white people. When it was Steve Rogers, when it was Thor, when it was Captain America, when it was motherfucking Bucky, I heard no goddamn complaints. Like ask somebody who loved these motherfuckers. I've watched all fucking 50 of these goddamn movies. Ask somebody who watched all 25 movies leading up to the Avengers. I watched them bitches. I did not hear motherfucking fatigue. But the second it opens up to women, LGBTQ, brown folks, anybody else other than a white man, I gotta hear motherfuckers constantly talk about fucking fatigue. Why do we get fatigue when it's somebody other than you? And I know that's that nerdum coming out of me, and nobody really gives a fuck because it's comic books. But as somebody who in real life, the door always want to shut, the budgets always want to get smaller when it comes to us. Right. You know what I'm saying? And it's very frustrating. And one more thing, particularly with black men. And this one thing that pissed me off when it came to Black Panther. Y'all got y'all motherfucking lives. And I'm not knocking it. Yo, black boy joy all over the motherfucking place. Grown ass men crying, falling out, passing out. Lord, I finally got. Lord, child, it's my turn. I got my shit. Okay, cool. You got your shit, okay? But the second, if you read the fucking comics, Black Panther was not always a man, right? Okay. Am I not getting this right? The second you want to make it somebody else, all of a sudden I gotta hear you motherfuckers complain about it, and I gotta hear y'all argue online about it, and I gotta hear y'all make this fucking uproar about it. You got your shit. You got your turn.
Well, also, for good reason. Like the person who played it died. Like they didn't have a lot of options. It wasn't just like, we hate black men now.
Right.
We want to say fuck you. Like, no, they made the best of a bad situation, and suddenly we found the limits of a lot of dudes' imagination. It was, well, I don't know how she could be doing all that. She's only this small. And I'm like
she wasn't. And the thing that was killing me about that argument was Shuri was at every fight, hands up. She was at every. People were like, she gotta learn how to fight. I was like, when have we seen her not fight? Like, we seen her in the lab.
Also, it doesn't make sense because
the smartest woman in the world.
It doesn't even make sense though, because if you're gonna go by that, all the men that played the superheroes can't do that shit either. If that's the point, if you're like, well, she's so small, it's like, well, compared to Thanos, so is fucking Steve Rogers, but he took a few punches and didn't die. It's not called realistic. It's called superheroes. We're watching niggas do shit they can't do. That's what the special effects budget is for. What are you so mad about? Oh, you're mad it's a woman getting to do the thing. You know, it's people calling Rey from Star Wars a Mary Sue, and you're just like, I don't think there's ever been a bigger Mary Sue than Luke. Like, this nigga, he was a farmer and ended up saving the galaxy, dog. Like, this is just what the fuck the genre is. But it tells a lot where people's imagination like limits.
And Karen, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I think a piece of that superhero fatigue is because they're expecting these white stories, and so we're getting more diverse stories, and we're shoving them through the template that was created from these white superhero stories. So we want everything to look like Iron Man 1 or Avengers, the first Avengers. I'm like, you can't make Miss Marvel look like that. Like, you can't make it. And now I think, is this a review? I don't know, whatever. I feel like Blue Beetle is what we were asking for, right? It's closer to what Iron Man 1 was if he was Latino. And people were talking about it. Someone put Taco about it on it, and I'm like, they're just shoving the fact that he's Latino in our face. And I was like, have you ever met someone of color? Like, our ethnicity, our culture is part of that. But the same thing could be say about Iron Man. He was listening to AC/DC. He was he came back from being in being a prisoner of war, and he asked for an In-N-Out burger. That's the most white shit I've ever heard. That's what he wanted.
I think there's nothing. Even the ending of Iron Man is like the ultimate white privilege, where he just outs himself like, I'm Iron Man, everybody else. Yeah, I'm like, and it can work for him. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many other heroes that would be like, I can't.
And then he spits in the face of the U.S. government the next time we see him. Beginning of Iron Man 2, he's like, listen, I'm a billionaire. I lobby for all y'all in office, because he didn't say this, but this is what it's like. All of y'all in office because I fund y'all. The economy is what it is because of me. Y'all not I said no, and I'm gonna leave here. And they said, "Dang, we hate him." That was it. Meanwhile, they were sending coups to a mourning country who opened up their resources. They tried to steal what they said. Nah, we want some more. And the French woman looking at her in her face, "C'est la vie." What?
I think it's interesting too, because I'm sorry, Karen, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, before we move on, I was about to say the thing about Shuri and what trips me out about that argument, you know, she's the motherfucking smartest person on the goddamn earth. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, she is smarter than Iron Man. Like, the shit that they got make Iron Man's suit look like it's made out of motherfucking plastic.
Right.
So what are we talking about?
I think just in general, the people that have a huge disconnect with Black Panther too just happen to coincide to be people that have huge issues with Black women. I don't think it's like a coincidence. I don't think many of them would admit to it or even see it that way, but just listen to the way they talk about other topics. And it's like, oh, you just have an issue around the idea. Like, when you think of Blackness, you think of Black men first and only, and that's who Blackness is supposed to serve.
Right.
And so to have a whole movie, because to me, even the first Black Panther is more about like Black women, and like the dude that happens to be the one that listen to Black women is the one that motherfucking wins. And the dude that happens to be like, man, I'll kill these Black women in service of my wife. He's the one that loses. You know what I mean? And there are people that left that movie thinking that dude was a hero. They, you know, they don't read the books. They don't do the therapy. They don't really do the deep level of thinking. They're just looking at toys, and they're like, why? Where's the Black boy toy? And that's the only thing they care about. But I think a lot of it can't be disconnected from the social issues, which is my next question. Like, was there ever hesitance, or is there ever hesitance when you're talking about stuff? Because I believe the general like consensus, especially before a lot of Black and marginalized people started doing like social commentary, it was a lot of like, stay apolitical. Hey, just talk about the book. Don't let's not get into all this politics. Did you ever feel that pressure, or is that something like, is that a voice you had to find, or did you just show up with it?
Nah, I kind of just showed up with it. And I guess I did feel a little bit of pressure when I was like building my content. I remember some of my mother's coworkers was like, this is so Black. But I was like, well, that was the entire point. I wanted it to be very Black. And if white people don't feel safe here, then go to film theory or whatever. But once I started realizing the bag did not change, and actually like I was getting the bag for being so steadfast, nothing can stop me, because I'm like, I'm not losing any bags for advocating for people, for being open. And yeah, some Black men and some white men think I'm problematic, but guess what? Marvel and DC don't. They, like Image don't, Boom don't. They giving me the cheese. And so once I realized that it doesn't affect my paper, I was like, good, I could be me. Obviously, I clean it up to be palpable. But for the most part, I use slang. I speak in the manner that I would with y'all. And I'm open, but I'm not trying to be hurtful. And I think that's given me the freedom to know that like I'm here to advocate. People know I'm here to advocate. The brands know I'm here to advocate, which is how I source. This is how I make my living. So as long as that's good, then I'm chilling, man. Even Marvel had me on the page after that Miguel O'Hara. So while they crying, getting their pages taken down, like one of them actually got their page taken down. They was crying about it. And I was like, yeah, out here harassing me. I'm on Marvel's YouTube.
Right.
They see the video.
And also like the people that created that's the subtext they created it with. They want people to interrogate the work. So I don't think they got out of the movie and was like, oh man, that's a shock that people think Miguel's the bad guy here and might be using the same exact criticisms that people that did not want a Black Spider-Man used against the Black Spider-Man in the Black Spider-Man movie. No, that was an accident. I don't know what the hell Frankie's talking about. Like, it's crazy. So many people worked on that.
It's such a spit in the face for a movie that's so intentional, and everything from the colors they chose. Every scene is filled with Easter eggs and symbolism. So to say that anything in that was a coincidence, I'm like, this is not an event that happened. An event can be a coincidence. A work of art this intricate cannot be a coincidence. Down to when he got punched into the car and ran, and a white woman told Miguel where it was, and he said snitch. Y'all don't think they had to choose how that woman looked, how that person looked in that car who he said snitch to.
Like similarly in like Blue Beetle, there's like allegories for like immigration. There's like so many cultural moments that like literally if you didn't grow up in that culture, you won't get it. And I understand as a Black person what the moments look like. So I didn't even need to know, like when they're like, oh, they're talking about this specific TV show. I never seen that TV show. But the fact that they talking about it, I'm like, oh, somebody with some authority and some power was of that culture and helped make this movie, because that's the only way that moment gets in the movie. And it felt authentic because I didn't know everything. I love that. I love when I'm watching something and I'm like, oh man, that seemed to be some type of interracial conflict right there. I don't fully get, but I kind of get because I know what it's like in my race. And I think there's certain people that when they feel that feeling, instead of going, this is authentic, they go, I'm being left out.
Yeah. Right. And they leave things so you could still get it, right? Like in that movie, they did basically an ICE raid. So they're like, just in case you don't know, we're talking about racism against the Latin community. But, but before then, they were making small jokes, like at the country club. But this woman being Brazilian, I'm going to call her white, giving this man proprietary work and not considering the consequences.
Right.
Like stuff like that is like, this is Angel is telling a story, and we need to listen to what he's saying, down to them using talk new jitsu to win, right?
Yes.
He said, brother, you from Mexico. We get it. And I was like, exactly. We can relate to that.
I'm a sucker for that. Like anytime they do the, like, I guess it's the anime nerd in me, but anytime you do a like empathy swap at the end where it's like the bad guy's fighting the good guy, but then the bad guy and the good guy kind of realize like, damn, if I had made like one different decision or one different thing that happened to me, I could be where you're at. And they're like, why are we even fighting? Every fucking time. You can put that in every movie. I'll be like, yeah, that's
yeah. Every time. Roger gets a suck for that. And Roger, when you was talking about apolitical, it's funny when people talk about comics as being apolitical when majority of all comics have some fun of it. You talk about the mutants. You talk, you talking about everything all types of comics, shit where you go, you can relate.
You're talking about a lot of stuff that was either made by like marginalized people, like Jewish people and stuff. They were coming out for like World War I and World War II, being like, yeah, so we need to like educate everybody so this doesn't happen again.
Right.
And then on top of that, like even when they try to bring in like stories of marginalized people and maybe a white person came up with the concept or something, every time eventually it just gets into the hands of that type of person. Because you'll see in the beginning where you're like, I don't think these people been to Africa. They're just writing Black Panther. And then eventually some Black people get a hold of it. You be like, now that's a motherfucking Black Panther. And so to read that stuff, I'll just never be able to understand how many people are able to read that stuff and enjoy it for, I mean, literally 100 years at this point. And there's still people who just do not get it. They just, when it comes to social issues in real life, they are on the side that the heroes in their books would be against.
Yes.
And it's like whenever I see a Punisher logo on like a car,
right?
And you like, I know that's a racist motherfucker that wants cops to shoot Black people. The Punisher would be shooting those cops. Like that's the kind of nigga he is, where he's like, oh,
the Punisher is ACAB all the way, which is hilarious to me that the cops have adapted him. And I was like, I just need you to read one. He thinks he's better than y'all. But, I think it comes with the education. When I used to be a novice to Batman beyond like multimedia and not actually reading a lot of his comics. You guys are frozen. Am I frozen? Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I used to be a novice to Batman, and I think because I watched mostly like the movies and stuff like that, I had a totally different perception of what Batman was. And then to read comics and to be like, yo, Batman is actually really anti-cop, anti this, it's that, and I was able to grow and stuff. And I think that's where the disconnect is. People aren't willing to learn more and to look deeper. And so we have people who never read the comics writing Batman and stuff like that. And then they're like, well, I was like, he looks like some rich fascist in Westchester talking about what we doing in the city. And I'm like, that's not who he is.
It is funny to slander Batman, but yeah, I always feel like reading the comics, it's like Batman is the dude that gives to the charity to help the people, that donates the time, and then comes out and beats up the people that are terrorizing the people.
He said it all day for the city, right?
Right. Like he really puts on for his city in a way that I never would. Like if anything, like whenever people say like Batman is a character that has to be white, like I don't think any character has to be white. But that's the best argument, because nobody's gonna feel like they own a city the way a white dude feel. Like white people be talking about like America's economy like it's their bank account, like. Like we're down bad, guys, right now. Have you seen the GDP? I'm like, what the fuck that got to do with me? I'm looking at my numbers in my bank account. But I feel like a billionaire white dude would feel a level of like, I'm going to protect everybody. I'm going to give everybody money. I'm going to fucking house everybody. And I'm going to beat up the people that mess with everybody. Like,
that ultimately helps him in his business too, right? So on all aspects, he does feel ownership. The Wayne estates, the Wayne conglomerate, owns Gotham, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, y'all got me looking crazy out here. I'm trying to make these business deals. Don't nobody want to come out to Gotham. Okay, I need to clean these streets
I'm trying
up.
to promote Gotham, and y'all out here fucking it up.
And in the book, he's always the one with the ideas that lose money.
Right.
He shows up to the board meeting like, I feel what y'all saying, but how about we don't sell any drones to the government, and instead we put that money in the hood? And everybody's like, who the fuck is
They're like,
yeah,
like Bruce said, who told him about this meeting?
like whose man is this? He'd be like, I hear what y'all saying, but why don't y'all invest more money so that the people over here at the asylum, can get the help that they need, and then turn around and catch him to put him in there, but he actually want to help them.
Right.
I was just reading Death in the Family. Was it Death in the Family? I've been reading a bunch of stuff with Harley Quinn, or I'm sorry, either Death in the Family or Mad Love. But the Joker breaks out of Arkham, and Batman just sitting there with Jim Gordon. He's like, I've been telling y'all to up the security. No, he's talking to Alfred. And he was like, I've been trying to get them to up the Arkham security, and they just won't let me. I've been trying to donate this money and get it up here. How many people got to die?
Help me, help y'all.
Because they keep getting out, and secretly, I'm the one that's got to catch them again.
Right, I'm catching them, and I'm trying to put in the stuff to keep them in. And
that's where Batman
help me help you.
That's where Batman is too progressive, because he won't kill this nigga. So he's like, I don't believe in the death penalty. I don't fuck with guns. I'm like, damn, this nigga a little too
he's
liberal.
An abolitionist.
Like you're gonna have to get a little to the middle.
But I love that about him. I love that he believes in that anyone can change.
Of course,
because
it's the only way. It's literally the only way for that kind of person to be a hero. Like,
right.
I love the Elseworlds and the other tellings where they try to do like a dark Batman, and it just never really fully works, because you're like, the second Batman is pulling the fucking gun on people. When he's pulling out the blicky, it's like, it don't feel the same, bro. Bruce would have gave that man a concussion, not a body bag.
And he talks about that too in Death of the Family. This guy catches him by surprise and he knocks him out, and they're doing voiceover. Well, I mean, it's text, but in his head, he's like, I came down on him too hard. So even then, he knocks someone out. He's like, damn, I'm so sorry, my boy. And I think if you guys ever watched Batman Beyond, the premiere is such a perfect way to show that, right? Because he has a heart attack mid-fight. He's down bad. This guy's about to beat him up or kill him, and he picks up a gun and he's shaking because it's him or me. And the guy is like, yo, I've never seen the bat with the gun, and he runs. And that's when you realize he has to retire. Because he's like, if I'm at a point where I can only win by holding a gun, I can no longer be the Batman. And just the fear he had in himself, I was like, you don't know Batman at all.
Bruce, yes, and the thing about Bruce, what I love about Bruce is so white man. He's like, he told the Justice League, I got so much money, I'm crazy. He was like, I'm so crazy that if y'all have to come get me, it's a motherfucking problem.
Sorry.
You know what I'm saying? That they was like, well, what do we do?
Oh at the end of one of the animated movies, where he had everybody's weakness in the Justice League.
Yes,
and I think the bad guy stole his plans for how to take everyone down, except they made it more lethal because Bruce wouldn't kill these niggas, but they straight up was like, let's make a kryptonite bullet and kill Superman and shit. Right. So at the end, when they're kicking him out of the Justice League, because they're like, nigga, you had secret plans to beat us all up. And he's like, and they're like, and what was the fail-safe for you? He was like, y'all, the Justice League. It's gonna take all of y'all, but y'all were the fail-safe. I thought about that.
Yeah. But also, that's so trill to talk to a bunch of gods. They're all gods. It'd be like, all y'all could, right? The five of y'all don't have it. And for them to ask the question, I know his dick was a little hard. To be like, yeah, worried about what's our fail-safe. Why is that a question for y'all? I'm a human. That's why I had a fail-safe for all of y'all. Why y'all?
That's one of the rawest moments of all time.
Yes, and he's strategic. He's like, my shit is planned. So trust, if y'all gonna come after me, Gotham gonna have a bomb, or like it's gonna be something for y'all when y'all show up. It ain't gonna be easy to take me down.
And I love, and that's why he's Trill. Like, there's an episode where like the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, where they decide to do something and like out themselves or something publicly, and Batman said, "Yo, stay up. God bless. That's not me." And they're like, "Batman, you have to. You're the leader." They're like, "I don't."
Yeah,
I don't. And y'all be blessed.
Yeah, like
y'all got it.
Yeah, he wasn't even like mad. He was just like, "Oh, that's the way y'all gonna go? Cool. That's not how I get down. I'll be at the crib."
Couldn't be me.
Yeah, he's the ultimate who all. He's the ultimate. He's the ultimate who all gonna be there superhero. Right? You know.
He is who all.
He was like, y'all bulletproof. I'm not.
Yeah, like I love the later seasons of Justice League because he's very much like, y'all got it. Like,
yeah, good. And I know people hated the Flash, the movie, but I love the Flash as a Batman movie. Especially the way that Michael Keaton was talking about, like, even down to the conversation that Ben Affleck had with the Flash and him understanding, like, bro, you said you could turn time. Listen, I know what that means. Don't do it. Like, just the conversation, but down to them going to fight Zod. And there's a scene where Michael Keaton is fighting that big boy. Yeah. And the way he's climbing him and putting bombs on him and stuff like that. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Batman he's a ninja. He's gonna find a way. He's gonna find a way. He's not worried about y'all. He's like, I'm gonna do the best for me and figure it out.
You know what? He was actually making the case for him to be on Batman Beyond. Like I would love a Batman Beyond movie and just kind of reboot it, and that would be great.
Oh man,
I think Michael tired though. He ready to go. I think he could go either way. Like I think he's a thespian and he loves to act. But I felt like I was surprised to see him in the Flash because I thought he was telling me in Birdman to let it go, and I did. I let it go. I let him go as a hero. So when he came back, I was like, "But Mike, we just talked 6 years ago."
He liked playing Bird. He liked playing Bird associated roles. Like he also is the Vulture.
He was.
So he just
But that's a villain. But give him saying. So I thought he scratched that itch.
Give him some wings. He'll be in your movie. That's all I'm saying. Like if you trying to cast Michael Keaton right now and you ain't got a set of wings on set, I blame you.
Down the road.
It's your fault.
Why am I here?
We're gonna be in like Touched by an Angel reboot or something. Like he needs
Touched by an Angel.
Get that man some wings. He's like me. Okay, if you want me to show up places, get some wings. I don't care if it's from Wingstop. I don't care. I'm gonna be there. What about? So, have you said anything where people got mad at you and you were like, "Y'all right," or like, have you had that moment yet? Or hopefully never, knock on wood, but have you had?
Recently, it wasn't that bad. I just took the video down, but I watched, which is now my guilty pleasure, Jobless Reincarnation. And I was talking about how I was talking about how I felt like I raised Rudius because I watched him like literally be birthed, and then like I'm watching him now. I'm going to college, and people were like, "This is not it. Like this is pedophile." Da, da, da. And like I was like, first of all, anytime I talk about pedophilia and like sexism in anime, y'all tell me to shut up. And this is a genre, but I'm happy and proud to see that y'all are sticking a line, and this is it. So I'm here. And then I instead asked the question. Is he a pedophile because he has his former memories? If it's not like a vampire who's 200 years old who looks 17, we're watching him grow with a dirty mind. And I'm not going to hold you. I feel like 16-year-olds think like that anyway. Yeah. But and also the character himself, I always felt like was stunted and like wasn't being predatory. He's like growing. I don't know. Yeah. But it could just be that I banged with the anime and I was ignoring and making excuses. So that was something I'm currently trying to figure out. I'm like, I just won't talk about it.
I think that's one of the things that strikes me about like the difficulty of doing the job you do is because a lot of times because you hold water for so many things and you're observing so many things, even if there aren't issues that directly affect you, there are things that you're like, oh, but there's a certain type of person that may feel a way about this, or this language is this or whatever. I wonder what it's like when you can't be everything for everybody, or something just slips by, or it's just something you don't see yourself because it has, like it's a new thing for you, like because I think people can come down kind of hard, or they come down with the like presumption of like the worst presumption of like you meant to be mean, or you meant to not understand where I'm coming from, or you saw this issue and you're okay with it. That's why you didn't talk about it. Like, what is that like?
I think for the most part, I just stay quiet. If there's something I don't quite understand, or or I can't advocate to the fullest extent, like the Hogwarts Legacy game came out, right? And I was like, I grew up on Harry Potter. Harry Potter literally saved my life. Like, quite literally took me to a place where I was like, I could be better. I'm special. But I understand this creator, it makes my trans friends feel the way. But at the same time, I'm like, I got to read so many stuff written by racist people who talk crazy. I'm watching Guardians of the Galaxy 3 right now. Chris Pratt, for sure. Don't fuck with black people. You know what I mean? But I was like, so just finding that line. And I was like, you're right. I can't be everything for everyone. So when I can't, I'm like, I'm just going to be quiet, because what I can say or my thoughts on it can come out as maliciousness. And I know when I'm advocating for myself as a woman, as Afro-Latina, as a Black woman, when people are talking about their excuses on why I shouldn't care, how it makes me feel. And so, like, who am I to extend that to another community because I don't understand? You know what I mean? So yeah, for the most part, I just try to stay quiet. I try to stay out of it. I don't really stitch much unless it's in jest. Or I don't talk about topics unless I know for certain there's no way you could turn, like Tory Lanez every day. I don't care what happens. I'm not. Jonathan Majors, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything because I was like, it's a white woman. But at the same time, I was like, I believe in women all the time, and I get, and there's something there. She may be lying, but I don't know. And so I'm going to be quiet, and and I think that's where a lot of creators make the mistake, is they're so quick to be like the first one to speak on it, and they want to be the one to hit it. And I think that's where that mistake. So it's like, if I really want to talk about something, I was like, sometimes I'll film the video, send it to some friends, wait a day or two, and I'm like, what do y'all think? Or I wait because somebody else is going to make that mistake and I get to watch it. So I think that's baby syndrome in me. I'm the baby, so I got to watch my siblings like test the waters and then be like, so these are the things that should not be doing, because this is how.
And also, it's hard to talk. It's hard to talk about some of these things in a minute and a half, right? So it's like
I agree.
You wouldn't even really be able to get into the complexities of some of the stuff when it's like I have a minute and a half to get to the things I've noticed. And a lot of times you do have to leave stuff for people that, like, that's my thing, is like, there's certain issues people might have with something that I don't have the issue. Right. I can even understand their issue, but I might not really relate to it. Right. Like I might be able to understand it, but I don't want to regurgitate their issue or like try to, be like, I heard them say this and now I'm saying it because that's how I feel. It's like, no, I'm saying it because they said it, and I think I like what they said, and I want to say it now to like boost what they're saying. But there's times where there's just people feel multiple ways. As a Black person, there's so much shit that we have where I can understand how someone can feel two ways about the same thing and be like, yeah, both of y'all are Black and have your own like point of view, and I don't feel like one of you has to be wrong, but I understand where both of you are coming from. And then when you get to other experiences that aren't mine, I definitely there's things on the show, we'll wait. We'll be like, because the other thing you realize too, when you make content all the time, new shit gonna keep happening.
Yes, I have. There's time to 72 hours. Like, that's how the internet works. I give it 48 to 72 hours. And a lot of times by then people have moved on to something else. Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy.
And there's times where you jump out and you really be wrong. And then it be like, damn, if I would have waited 48 more hours, I would have been fine, but
Right.
I had to be first, and then some new shit dropped, and you like, damn, they got me. So I definitely feel you on that.
You know what? And you don't get a gold star cookie for being first, and wrong, you get dragged for that.
What about being stitched though? Like, what does it feel like to be stitched? Like, does that, like, you get a notification on TikTok like you got stitched, and then you go look at the video, and then it's like your heart in your chest, like, is this motherfucker about to say some froggy shit, or they about to have my back?
Anytime I'm stitched, my heart does drop, because I'm like, it's rare that people are stitching or duetting me because they agree. Normally it's like to talk about it. And some stitches I don't see, because like some people I block will stitch me and download my stuff and stitch. Wow. So that's typically how I find out I'm stitched. So like I was saying, that big controversy was because this huge creator that I blocked, someone shared my video on his Discord, and he felt it was appropriate to make like 4 videos and stitched it, but then couldn't tag me. So they found me, they found me on my own. So yeah, normally when I see stitches, I'm like, oh Lord, they're never like nice. They're never like, oh, da-da-da. Or it's never like fun. Like sometimes I do have people who like stitch for fun, and I'm like, cool. But normally the stitches are like, this chick is wrong. I hate her. She's what's wrong with the world right now. What is the world coming to? We can't do anything. And so I'm like, dang, these are stitches. But then like if I turn them off, that doesn't really do anything. They're gonna screen record and stuff like that. And then the same with the comments. Like I can't turn those off too, because they're just gonna flood my other comments. So I just leave it open. I think I restricted my comments, and I put a lot of keywords in my Miguel O'Hara one. And I think there's like 6,000 comments that I need to go through. There's 15,000 comments on that video, but there's 6,000 comments that have the N word in it, have like the B word in it, have grape, the real word for grape in it. Are all 6,000 people felt that way because I talked about a cartoon. I mean, he's fine. Right. I get it. Like, he's handsome. But like, I was like, there's nothing I say that's serious. You know what I mean?
Wow. Oh my God. I can't even imagine. Like, I just, like, I can't imagine that on both sides. Like, I've had people say mean things to me, obviously, but I can't imagine what it's like to be so upset that you're like threatening people over a fucking opinion on a goddamn cartoon movie, man.
A fictional character.
It's just like, and I've seen opinions on things where you're like, man, fuck them. I disagree with that. But I've, to this day, have yet to be like, I'm going to fuck you up. I'm always like, I mean, I disagree, but like, I'm going to watch the movie and enjoy it for myself, because that's what I do. When I like a thing, I don't feel the need to like hurt someone's feelings who doesn't like the thing.
Right.
And even in this case, it's super wild because you weren't like, I hate this movie. You were just like, this character.
But people interpret criticisms, critiques, and analysis, if they're not 100% positive in that critique or analysis, that you're saying that you don't like the movie. So people interpreted me analyzing this character as me saying the movie wasn't good. And I was like, clearly I'm making 6-7 videos about this movie. It's because I was deeply invested and I was able to analyze it. I was able to read everything from it. But like, people are not that smart. And so that's something I had to like realize. Because even when I followed up and say, okay, I'm sorry, I trusted y'all too much. Like I didn't use the verbs. I started putting a little warning label that says like, I'm analyzing things. And people are still like really upset, or like just said, you're flip-flopping, you're wrong. I'm like, I'm trying to explain more. But yeah, I couldn't imagine being that consumed with something that you're like, I'm gonna threaten this woman, because she's had the gall.
I don't have that in me. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't have that thing in me.
The other thing for me too is they've made it to where I'm afraid to disagree in a fun way with my friends online. Because if it's in a space where everyone can see it, too many people take it serious. So like, if I see a video and like playfully want to be like, oh man, that's not how it is. Fuck that. Somebody will really be like, yeah, because fuck her, right? And it's like, whoa, no, I meant in a fun, like me and my friend.
The person that I know.
She said she like Xbox. I say I like PlayStation. Then we like joke, and then it's cool. it's not like let's dox her, you know. So I don't like. There's times I don't even like. I do all my stuff through like text or like a DM or something like that when it's a friend, because I really don't trust the internet and like people taking your stuff and like stitching it, and it's always in bad faith. They're never gonna take you like. They're never gonna be like, well, you know what? Here's why I disagree with her. It's always like, this is what's wrong with the internet, bros. It's like, fuck, man.
It's so weird. It's so weird to see Black men, especially, stitch me and say like, especially when I say something like, if you're not in my community, like I don't want to talk to you about it, for them to be like, wow, how dare she? I'm like, so y'all have never said anything.
Right.
You've never said something as a Black man where you're like, this is unique to me, and if you're not here, you're not gonna understand me. Like that's never.
I think that's that like red pill kind of clout, you know, get the click type of thing, because that's something white dudes have been doing, and there's a lot of Black dudes that come into the space and just see what the successful white dudes are doing,
right,
and just go, I'm gonna do that. And it's like, what? Even if they're doing stuff like justifying racism, yep, I'm gonna do that. That's what got him 1 million views. And by the way, it ain't gonna work. You're never gonna get the 1 million views the white people get, because at the end of the day, you're never gonna be able to out racist the racist. Like,
right.
Part of the reason people are coming to you is to be like, oh, look at how he dunked on this Black woman. They're not gonna be like, and I love this Black man's abuse so much.
Right, like, and that's the thing. I was like, you don't see that everyone who's agreeing with you is a man or white. You should reevaluate, right? Like for me, I'm like, all right, I'm being canceled right now, but I'm being canceled by Kevin Samuels talk and like, you know, and white talk. I think I'm gonna be okay if that's who.
I think you are too. Like,
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to read those messages, but like at the same time, I have to remind myself, like I said, it's not gonna affect my bag. These are not people I want to interact with. And honestly, when I see them in the streets, y'all, they be scared. I got hands.
Right.
I'm large.
They never have that same energy.
Same energy.
Also, like, honestly, dog, because we run into this with the podcast for years. People used to say this and be like, you know, if you did your show like this, or you talked about this, or you didn't talk about blank, you'd have more listeners. And it's always like, yeah, but I don't value the listeners that can't handle me saying fuck Trump. Like if they, if they really need me to not say that, knowing what I look like in this country and what I obviously believe, then why the fuck would I need them to like support my show? What are they really supporting at that point?
Right.
And I think one thing the social media has given us is the ability to be our own individual brand and to pick for ourselves. But there comes conflict with that. Like I saw you had a video about it. I also read the piece about it, but the thing where it's like critics versus influencers, and the movie, you need movie critics to be critical, or how else are movies going to be better if no one's critical? And the influencers are only saying good things about movies, and they would never give a real opinion. It's all being bought and sold. Like, what did you think about that controversy, and how do you handle that conflict?
I thought that was hilarious, because I was like, y'all don't see me here, but like I was like, for us to say that these big reviewers have no conflict is insane to me. I'm like, you telling me Robert and Ebert was given were they reviewing Boys in the Hood? Like, were they like they were giving these reviewers be at parties. They be at the same parties that I'm at. The only difference is they could do it in the shadows. And so that was my biggest thing. I'm like, you think that there's no impropriety going on with reviewers because they're doing it for a site that you deem? I was like, that's elitism on a level that, you know, we're not given. And someone mentioned like, they have integrity they have to worried about. I'm like, but we also have integrity, and it's on Front Street. That guy who wrote that article, I don't know his name. And so he could write an article tomorrow about something different and I wouldn't know, right? Versus when I say something, people save it and wait for me to say the contrary. People harbor that. People hold on to it. People associate it with my face and my stance from then on. So I have to keep a level of integrity because of the way that I interact. And yes, these studios pay me, but they pay me because of the trust that I've fostered from my following. And if I start to cap, people are going to feel it. Now, there are times I think that I've left out some critiques, but that's not on my page. That's on their page. Like, I've done some reviews for a studio and given it to them to live on their page. Mm-hmm. But for reviews on my page, I'm always very clear. And I think a lot of people, even the people who, like, I get it. People hate Straw Hat Goofy, and I can see why. Like, he's my boy, but I get why he rubs people the wrong way. But at the same time, I'm like, I've seen him do both. I've seen him, like, say the truth, say what he doesn't like, but I've also seen him. I'm like he was going so hard for Avatar: Way in the Water. I was like, no way, no way, this is real. But at the same time, I was like, get your bag. I felt him. Right. But that same thing could happen if I was right. Like, what would be different if I was writing for Rotten Tomatoes? Where are they getting their ad space from?
Right.
No, they're getting it from Warner Brothers. They're getting it from these studios. How are they getting? Who's going to the press junkets? We just getting invited to press junkets.
Right.
Who's been at those press junkets, meeting the celebrities, knowing them by heart, shaking their hands, talking to them all the time. Like, it's the same, y'all. And the only difference is we cut out the middleman, and it's scaring. It's scaring people that we're able to achieve this level of notoriety and wealth without including these white men and these white men to help us out.
Yeah. I mean, we're official, like, movie critics, and we've even, like, we get so much free shit. It's crazy. And when it comes time for, like, the award season, they send us so much stuff. Like, we're throwing shit out because we didn't ask for the stuff. And it'd be stuff like Netflix sending us a box of shit. So, like, Netflix, everybody got Netflix. They'll send us, like, a screener, like a disc. That's fine, because maybe I'm a person that doesn't have their service, right? But then they'll send us, like, a sweater, a candle, a book, the making of, some free coffee. And it's like, well, that is definitely to engender goodwill in my review. And in my vote for that is exactly what's happening.
Because people will remember those gifts.
So, like, even when I read that as a critic, I was like, you're not being full-fledged honest, because there's critics that are hacks. There's influencers that feel more honest than certain critics. There's also critics that seem to, like, really delve hard into negativity, because almost every critic will just say criticism is negative. If you listen, they'll act like it's not, but if you listen to how they start talking about why it's important to be a critic, it always goes to because someone needs to be negative about it. But what the fuck has that really improved in the 100 years of criticism? When have we been like, man, if it wasn't for that criticism, this movie would have...
And that's not what criticism is. That's not what critiques are, especially movie critics. It's analyzing and discussing what you enjoyed, maybe what you didn't enjoy, because some movies are perfect. I thought Barbie was perfect. And I was ready to critique it. But once they let that line off, talking about Margot Robbie's the wrong person to cast, it's perfect. And so, am I not a critic? If I am saying, I mean, I consumed this media, I thought it was perfect. This is what it's supposed to be. This is my point of view on what I consumed.
Like, the term critic is not about criticism. It's about thinking critically, you know? We're thinking critically. But if you let once it gets to this type of fight, it ends up turning into like, but if I can't tell you the movie is bad, how you gonna know it's bad? It's like, because everyone goes to watch the movie on their own. When's the last time a critic has truly been, like, important in that way to people? Like, I know they're important in the circle of criticism. Like, there's a hierarchy and a social network there. But, like, when's the last time you're like, if it wasn't for this movie review, people would have thought this shit was good? Like, it's never been that way. So it feels like a way to elevate critics so you can diss the influencer who is just now starting to get the access, just now starting to get things. And like I said, obviously, I'm sure for critics and influencers, there are some people that are like, I'm just a shill, right? Send me a bag, I'm gonna tell you it's great. But even with a lot of those folks, they don't hide it. They be like, they fucking sent me out here. I don't give a fuck. This is the greatest movie of all time. I'm in a hotel in California.
And we have to disclose it. That's another thing. Critics are not obligated to disclose the gifts that they give. Every gift that we receive, any event we go to, we have to disclose that. And I think that's a level of integrity that people don't discuss. But to your point, Rod, I did a scathing review for Avatar, I was going to say The Last Airbender, Way of the Water. And when I did, it went viral. Like, I'm sure, like, my friend works for Marvel, and she said they were playing my video in a meeting, right? That's how viral that video went. The movie made $2 billion. It did nothing. But and people saw it, and people did not stop. And so that gallant, like, I need to save the words for the movie. If people want to see the movie, they're gonna see the movie. Even if they don't, if they don't got nothing to do, they're gonna go see this movie.
Right, and that's the thing, and that's why a lot of times we see the scores, you see the critic scores and the people at home scores, and sometimes they are matched, but most of the time they're not, and sometimes it's a huge disconnect because you have fans that go, I know this is a shitty movie, give a fuck about what y'all saying, I'm gonna go see it, and then critics are mad that it's number one.
Yeah.
Well, the movie might not be for you, because the thing about critics too, particularly, being a movie critic, some of them don't need to cover certain movies. If you know that you don't like this genre movie, why are you covering it?
It's also that the way that we discuss movies changed about 10 years ago.
Right.
And people talk about movies like stock now.
Yeah.
And critics are not immune to that. It's the reason not, like, almost every critic will try to hit you with the, like, weird film school take of, like, all these big budget summer movies are the problem. People need to get independent films. What's happening to that? And then it's like, at the same time, when people have opportunities to see independent films, they're also not a monolith. Some of them are shit. Some of them are good. Sometimes people go out of their way and they go fucking fine. They're like, everything everywhere all at once. We're fucking going to see that shit. That's gonna make so much money. And sometimes it's, hey man, we saw the movie, we wasn't feeling it like that. And it won't matter if you gave it 5 stars or you gave it 0 stars. The people kind of speak about that stuff. But I think a lot of people feel like they're picking winners and losers now. So critic, I told y'all this is the movie to see. And you know what the problem is? These goddamn influencers. They're telling you to see The Flash or whatever. You're like, dude.
It's not me. It's not me. I will say this too. Like, critically, I could understand a movie is critically bad, as in, like, as a critic, because I work with Cherry Picked. So, like, if I'm analyzing the movie, if I'm going by score, script, things like that, this movie is bad. But did I enjoy the movie? And I think there's something else that's different, right? So my critic score could be high, and I'm like, okay, like Oppenheimer, I haven't seen it. But I'm sure Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan, I love both of them. I'm sure as a critic, I could watch this and be like, this movie is an A+. It's perfect, right? The script, the way. But I know as a Black woman, I can't watch American propaganda for 3 hours. And so it would, if I was just a viewer, I'd be like, I don't want to do it. Cocaine Bear. Yes, thank you. Cocaine Bear is perfect. Is it a good? I enjoyed Cocaine Dealer.
Me too.
Start to finish, I was dying.
It delivered exactly what it told me it was going to do.
Cocaine and a bear. You know why I showed up.
Is it gonna get an Oscar? No. But like,
as soon as a 10-year-old does cocaine in a movie, you got me. I need to see what happens next.
I mean, I gotta see what's up. I gotta see what's up, and it's not Casablanca. I don't think it's gonna be like this perfect.
But to your earlier point, it is interesting because essentially what that article came off to me as is saying that legacy media is the only way to go, and whatever we do with legacy media is okay, but what these new niggas doing is different. And I'm like, if your publication gets money from the same movies that you have to critique, you could argue there's a conflict of interest there, just because like DC or Marvel or Warner Brothers or whoever puts an advertisement on your website or in your newspaper, we don't say, well, that critic clearly is going to give that movie a good score, or that critic is going to be beholden to the whims of who, like, the movie's not actually good. DC took out an ad in the newspaper. We don't do that to you. So a lot of it feels just like, don't trust them new niggas, which, I'll never be with.
And also, it's one of the things that they did with Netflix. Because particularly during the pandemic, everybody had to stream. So nobody was taking their asses to the motherfucking movie theaters. Then all of a sudden, everybody's tone changed, and they started releasing all that stuff to kind of mimicking Netflix. And it's like, for me, it could be very frustrating. Like I said, that separation, and then you wonder why you have these award shows And every year the ratings have gone down. Like every year, statistically, they say how the ratings go down. They don't understand why the ratings go down because people go, we like things, we love shit. The shit that the masses go watch, y'all won't even consider as movie of the year.
They're never gonna
you won't put it up just so people are like, why the fuck would I watch this?
They don't
and why did the movie talk influencer, the TikTok critic, become so popular? Right. And I think that's what people are forgetting. Why are we here? Why do you trust me over Rotten Tomatoes, over IGN, right? Because I was bringing to you real, and you felt that connection where you're like, this is someone that I could connect to from my experience. And I'm not secret about it. You know, if I'm talking about The Flash, I'm talking about it as somebody who's been reading Flash comics since she was a child. You know, who watched Michael Keaton going to bed, bedtime story. And so I'm going to receive it as someone like that. And so my critiques are going to be different. Does that make me biased, or does it give it a different lens than that white boy who never read The Flash who's talking about the movie?
Right.
And so I think that's something too that they left out, was a nuance in how white critics are too.
Also, we're that's a huge one. And also we're all part of a tapestry. Right. Like the idea that like a fan or a moviegoer is going to one source and it's like, this critic told me what to see and what not to see, or this influencer will tell me what to see and what, like, if they're anything like me, like I'm looking all over the place to be like, okay, well, what did Frankie think? Okay, cool. I know her history of loving DC and the agenda over there with DC versus Marvel. I'm going to you for that content. So I know what your like background is. When it comes to a critic, if I read that critic, I know their background. I know if they like indie shit. I know if they don't like a certain director and stuff. And then also the last thing I'll say about this topic is they're talking about an age of criticism that doesn't exist anymore. Motherfuckers now are just hitting the enter button on the goddamn website with no editor, no oversight, no ethics committee.
My pet peeves is editors.
That criticism is not the same. I still remember reading like this one woman's criticism, and it was for like the New York Times or something. It was like a black woman, but she was shitting on all the black stuff. And I was like, I just had a realization of like, what does it matter if we get representation, but the representation is the same opinion that white people had about the shit in the first place? Where you're like, I don't feel represented. Like, yes, you have a black person. Do I feel represented? No, I'd rather go listen to an influencer talk about this, or someone. If I enjoyed something, I want to hear someone who enjoyed it talk about it as well. So I think a lot of it is that. The last thing I want to get into with you about, how did you decide DC over Marvel, and how have you been able to stick with that for so long with these movies?
I was, Milestone made me committed to DC. Like I said, when I grew up, say what you want about the X-Men, they were white. Milestone had actual black people.
Added shock.
Yeah, and I know there was some impropriety with how it was acquired, but obviously I did not know that when I was 8.
Yeah, you couldn't have known.
Right, I could have known. And like, so all I saw was DC was pushing out comic books. I met my dad and I met Dwayne McDuffie at some random event, and it was the first time. My dad is very stoic, and he's normally the center of the room. And so it was the first time I saw him revere someone and have so much respect for someone. And so, that's what really had me DC. To stay DC is the comic books for sure. The comic books, the animation, and I think
animation is fine. Yes,
right. And I think watching Marvel movies and then going back to a comic book, I think I would start to blend and create and think of movies in my own head, and I have enough of an imagination. And that's why it makes it easy for me to stay, because I'm like, I get it. Y'all think this shit is cute. Y'all playing with scraps. This not even Marvel's hottest. Okay, they sold that. Okay, and yeah, we can't get it right. I get it. We're going to though, because when this hit, and so. That's what I really, because I'm like, the kind of I even like Marvel not even touching. The Marvel
to make a sports analogy, I feel like you're a diehard Knicks fan.
Dang, I was gonna say Cowboys, but definitely I'm
Cowboys, Knicks. Where you're like, listen, we gonna get that ring.
We had our heyday, and we got back, y'all.
I remember Patrick Ewing. Okay, don't trip.
We
this
drafted
year is our year every year.
We drafted the Beetle. Okay.
Yo, and I saw Blue Beetle. I was kind of sad. I was like, damn this strike, fuck these studios. Because I was so ready to do 12 videos on Blue Beetle, and I thought it'd be over by now, but obviously people couldn't get it together. But like, yes, I saw Blue Beetle, and honestly, I'm very excited. I know people are doing pushback against James Gunn, but I'm like, there's not one James Gunn superhero property that we don't think slaps.
Right.
So, and I was like, I think he's perfect because like DC is whimsical. It's very whimsical. Like they have very heavy themes, but it's ridiculous. And I think that's the issue is that like on the surface, like Zack Snyder was looking at stuff on the surface. He probably read a Frank Miller Batman movie or something. And that's what he is saying, assigning to this universe. But James Gunn actually read the book. So he knows. He's like, these are serious themes. But that man's going to fight somebody covered in polka dots. He's going to do something ridiculous.
Snyder feels like he's drawn to like injustice storylines.
Which are real. No one who reads DC is like, and it's funny. I was making a story. I did a video for Max, for HBO Max, about how Superman is uncorruptible, and people are like watching Justice. I'm like, y'all need to read Injustice because no one who's ever read it ever thought this is Superman, and literally that's the point. In no universe would this be. They don't even consider it Elseworlds. This is just
it's very much. It's like people that are. It's the concept I get, like the concept that Zack Snyder went for, which is just like. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and even if all these people had all this fucking power and they like even the way they save the rest of us would be like fucked up because no one's supposed to be that powerful, which is a super cool idea. And they've done it in The Boys, and they've done it in Invincible. They've done it like they've done it a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different times. To do it with such beloved figures is just there's a blowback to that is just I don't think he was ready for. And I think at the time DC thought that fan base was a lot bigger than they were, the like Zack Snyder hive. And so I think a lot of that stuff like has been James Gunn has been able to like kind of see through that. I think having himself even been targeted by like right-wing people that were trying to use his old tweets to like he knows like the internet's powerful, but it's not 100% real.
And it was well-founded tweets. I think I do disagree, right? I think the Zack Snyder hide is huge. Big enough for them to invest millions of dollars to bring back the Justice League was just an unedited. It was the same movie.
Here's the other thing. If it's that huge, why they didn't do numbers? You see what I'm saying? Like, because they like to me, they're huge in that the way they feel online feels like this is a mandate. If you close your eyes, what is the average DC fan? Oh, it's these Zack Snyder guys. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. I think there's way more DC fans in the world than people even can count. Like, especially like of diversity and all that stuff. Because look at the cartoons. Look at the animated shows. Look at how much the Dark Knight trilogy was bringing in. Clearly, there's a lot of us that aren't just like white dudes threatening people online.
Correct.
So like, I think the internet allowed those people to concentrate and then like focus on harassing people that work at DC to make it seem like this is what a DC fan is. And I, as a fan of like DC and nerddom and Marvel, it did a disservice to people like us because it's like, no, we're not with them.
We're not. We're not.
I don't know them over there. I think also Zack Snyder did such a good job at casting people who look like the characters, and so people felt connected to that because like every day, whenever someone says they're a DC fan and say they love Henry Cavill Superman, I'm like, then you ain't never read a Superman comic. He looks exactly like him. I thought he was great, but I was like, y'all watched him let his dad die and thought that was
Right.
that was your Superman, like,
Right.
and they're like, you no, Jonathan Kent always dies. I'm like, the point is, it's out of his hands.
Yeah.
For it to be within his reach, for him to be able to sit and to choose not to, is the antithesis of who Superman is. And for you to say, right, and then you say, oh, but Henry Cavill's a fan. I'm like, no, because I saw him fight tooth and nail for The Witcher to make sure it was coming out the way that he felt like should come out. And he didn't do that for Superman. So he agreed. He agreed that this was a good Superman.
Well, I won't. Hold on. I'm not gonna say he agreed.
Okay, maybe he didn't agree. You're right.
He
let it happen.
might not agree, but he definitely learned a fucking lesson because he went into The Witcher like, we need to get this right. Like,
that's fair. That's fair. That's where he fought. But he didn't fight for the second one. He did the Justice League. It was one day he did Batman versus Superman. Like,
I mean, that helped him get the clout to be able, because he eventually walked off The Witcher. He didn't get his way. Right. So like, I think that gave him the clout to be like, this won't happen twice. Like, next time this shit happens, I'll quit.
Like, y'all won't be CGI my mustache.
Yeah, like
that's fair. I'm gonna give y'all that.
This nigga went to make Warhammer. I'm not shitting on Warhammer at all. It's not my fandom, right?
Right.
But the fact that he's a super fan and his next project was like, I'm making the shit I want to make with the people. I want to make it about the nerd shit I'm into. I'm like, it feels like a lesson was learned from Henry Cavill. Like, you can't just trust these motherfuckers to get it right.
To speak. And Zack Snyder would. Yeah, when that new Zack Snyder cut came out, I was expecting a different movie. And the fact that people can't see that it's the exact same movie with different editing, I was like, y'all, this is just context. Y'all know what context is, but this is a 4-hour movie. If your movie's 4 hours, it's not a good movie. That means you don't know how to tell a story correctly.
And you don't know how to edit. One thing about that man, he don't give a fuck about an editor. You be like, nobody wants to see 8 hours of this bullshit.
Nobody. Make it a show. Make it a show.
Right, yeah. Make it a series. Make it 22 episodes.
He's doing a 2-part movie thing called Rebel Moon for Netflix. And in the interview that he just gave, he's already saying how he needs to do a 5-hour cut that he's going to release. And I'm like, bro, how are you still doing this?
Hey, baby.
And then he put it in IMAX ratio. I was like, y'all letting him play in your face. He knew we were all watching it from our flat screens. Nobody was going to watch this in IMAX. Why would he put it in IMAX? He's spitting it in y'all faces. And y'all letting him. Y'all saying more, daddy, please.
Right.
Like what is happening here? I bet you they had an editor and every editor either quit or got fired because they were like, hey, sir, I don't think we need that. I don't think you're fired. Like,
people got divorced.
Just go work the next day. Like, what the fuck is this?
People got divorced over that Zack Snyder movie. I already know it. Yeah. They came home and they were like, you don't understand, Karen. I'm trying to do that. And then you're like, you're taking it out on me, right? I can't be here.
I feel like
blood pressure going up.
I feel like Zack Snyder just walks into the editing bay and goes, more slow motion. And they're like, no, it's already slower. It could be slower.
Slower, Sam.
We need them to see every move. We
right.
need them to see the reaction of that guy all the way back there. Gotta see it.
Right. What's the film runtime right now? Zach, we're already at 3 hours and 45 minutes. It can still be 15 minutes slower.
You know what?
Go back.
He goes slower and darker and grayer.
Yeah.
And you're like, they eventually ain't gonna be able to see nothing.
There's a lot of color. There's a lot of color in this third act. Make everyone grayscale.
Too shiny.
In slow motion.
Grayscale.
All right, Frankie, this has been so fun.
This has been fun.
We really enjoy you. I really do. I love all your stuff on Instagram. Rooting for you. I hope you get even more robots following you down the street. We love to see it. Okay, we love a brand deal. Tell everybody where to find you and like how to best get into your content.
Absolutely. So you guys can follow me on all platforms as Fantastic Frankey, except for on the Bird, which I barely use the X, which I barely use as Fanboy Fighter. And I actually do reviews for my own site, fanboyfighter.com. I just started it. So you guys can check that out as well. But definitely, if you guys liked my conversation here today, definitely check it out. That's basically how I speak on my pages, just in shorter forms. And you both, Karen, I'm so glad to have met you. Rod, thanks for having me. I really hold you both in really high regard. I think
thank
everything
you.
you guys say are so thoughtful. You're welcome. I do. I mean, you guys are really good. You guys are really good and thoughtful and smart. And I just feel smarter from, like, you're like, I have on NPR. It's like, I have the Black Guys and Tips. And it's also like very, very Black. And so I just want to say I appreciate y'all. I appreciate everybody who's
same to you. And like, go follow Frankie. Honestly, like I said, it will not let you down. Hop in the comments, make a joke. Disagree in a fun fashion, like keep it fun, because I
keep
love
it cute.
I actually love when people like mix it up. You know what I mean? Like, I like when people mix it up in the fun way, not the bullshit way.
Right.
And like, I think you have created like a really good, like, cool space. It's very inclusive, and it's like fun. Your fans are funny. Like, I'll read the comments sometimes and just be laughing at what people are saying. So I just think you're doing like such a dope job, and you're so dope. So we'll definitely have to have you back, and then like do a regular episode to talk about news and play games and all that stuff. But yeah, keep killing them. We'll be back Saturday for our feedback show. Don't forget, live show. The link is in the show notes. Virtual, in person. We want to see you. It doesn't matter. And oh shit, I'm so glad I remembered. Make sure you get your ticket before the day of, if it's virtual, because the people just told me, like, the way that Zoom works is they have to shut it down the day before with sales, so that they're not still trying to like make last minute purchases and getting everyone's email address and links and all that stuff.
Streaming.
Yes. So if you're streaming, if you're watching virtual, buy your ticket before. Do not buy it the day of, because it's gonna be impossible, and I know someone's gonna be emailing us the next day like, I would have bought the tickets. Now no excuses. We'll see you Saturday for the feedback show.
And also, if you're international and you're having issues, let us know.
Yeah, if you're international, email me, because apparently people be trying to hack Blumenthal Performing Arts.
Right.
We've gotten a couple people tickets already. They need like your IP address or something, so they can make sure you get your get your ticket. Because I don't know who trying to hack Blumenthal. I don't know what they got against the Black Guy Tips, but they scared, and they being extra secure. So all right, y'all. We'll talk to you Saturday. Until next time, I love you.
I love you too.
I love that.
Bye. Have a good one, Frankie.
Bye.